Hey, I'm Shelby.
And I'm Courtney.
We're exploring our past, looking forward to our future, and living for the present, all while learning how to live magically. What was your takeaway from today's episode?
Well, first of all, I love Taylor, so I'm so glad she was on. And I think my biggest takeaway I learned from her is to follow your heart, whether it's in your business and what you think you should be making, you should follow your heart, or whether it's your spouse, your love life. You should just kind of follow that journey and see where it takes you, even if it takes you to Canada.
I couldn't agree more. Today we have Taylor on, who you may know her on Instagram as Real Life of Taylor, or she has a small shop, Gingerbread Couture. We jump into both of those things, literally her real life, and then also Gingerbread Couture. And her story it's truly a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And I don't know, I really enjoyed our conversation. I got to learn a lot. You for sure got to learn a lot. And I'm excited for everybody to hear about her story. Definitely go give her a follow on Instagram. Again, Real Life of Taylor or Gingerbread Couture. And she has a pretty good launch today. Literally today, Monday, that's coming out. And she told us what the free gift was. And you want it.
It's awesome.
They want it. For sure.
They want it.
All right. Let's jump into this episode. We hope you guys enjoy.
Here we go.
Hello.
Hey, girl.
Hi.
This is so exciting.
I know. What is happening?
Well, I don't think we've ever actually chatted in person. And we're not really in person, but like, you get it. I can see your face.
There was like one Zoom call with like Pixie Lee.
Ooh, you're right.
Where we did talk. And that's like the only time we've actually chatted like face to face, which is crazy.
That is crazy. And Courtney is so excited. Courtney is like probably as excited as a listener today to have this conversation.
I've never heard anything.
Yeah, I've sort of dipped my toe in the water of your life.
Oh God. I'm so sorry.
No, I like love it. It's fascinating. And I love kind of your journey and like what you've come up with and how you did it, just from what I can find from social media. So I'm really excited to kind of dig into that and hear a little bit more about who you are and what makes you tick and like how you are able to pull off all the amazing things that you're doing.
Maybe I'll figure out how I'm able to pull it all off.
Yeah.
You're much cooler than I think you think. So like we're just gonna
obviously
jump right.
I think I'm...
Oh, you'll own it. I love that. Okay, so we're going to jump right into this. The most important topic here is that you are like the queen of Christmas. I'm a Christmas lover. We all know that. But you are like the queen of Christmas. So yeah. I just need to know if you've always been an elf or like, is this happen over time? Because I actually shared the other day that like my parents don't even decorate anything. And then I am the way I am. So I just need to know if you've just always been this way.
How this happened,
yeah.
This became my personality.
Yes.
So obviously I grew up loving Christmas. Like, who doesn't? I mean, if you don't, I have a lot of questions. And, we decorated for Christmas growing up. We always had a Christmas tree. My mom always put like lights in the window. She says that the reason I'm obsessed with Christmas and Disney is because she like repeatedly played like the Disney Christmas soundtrack. You know, the one that they literally play in Fantasyland during Mickey's Very Merry?
Yes.
That is the soundtrack that she like played nonstop. But like, it was like normal Christmas. And obviously I did grow up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is like kind of known as the Christmas city. So I think that kind of plays into it a little bit. So for those who are listening, if you've ever watched a Hallmark movie and you see those Christmassy towns that like have all these Christmassy events and have the Christmas markets, that's what growing up in Bethlehem is like at Christmas time.
So it was just born. It was just meant to happen.
Yeah. But I think it definitely really like catapulted when I moved to Florida, where we start Disney on November 1st. And I was like, I like this. This is great. We should celebrate Christmas all the time. And I think that's what really, because, I would go to like 3 or 4 Christmas parties a year.
Yeah.
At Magic Kingdom. So I think that's what really, but yeah, I grew up loving Christmas like everyone else.
Fair. Real quick though, I forgot that you're from Pennsylvania. So is Courtney.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what part of Pennsylvania are you from? Because I knew that, but I was like, where?
I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah, of course. And I know Bethlehem. So, like,
Are
yeah,
they,
we're
like-
buds.
Are they close?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, but speaking of a Hallmark movie, the topic that all I wanted to talk about on this pod, and we're going to just start it off right now. Your love story is like straight out of a Hallmark movie.
You don't tell Julian that. He'll be down here and be like, I want to tell it.
Oh.
So
He's cute.
we just need to tell the people and Courtney all about your Hallmark movie of a life.
How I met my Canadian husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. So I know we're going to talk about this eventually, but I did work for Disney. And in 2016, I had been with the company for about 2 years, and I had gotten myself a job in entertainment. I had transferred to entertainment. And the best way I can tell the story without like ruining any magic is that Mr. and Mrs. Incredible set us up on a blind date once.
Oh.
And so I walked into work one night and got to spend the whole night with Julian. And I'm gonna cry talking about it. Every time I tell this story, I'm like, and we went on our first date the very next night, and I was like, okay, cool, this is my person. However, it's my person who's from Canada. And I lived in Florida at the time, and he was only on a 3-month summer college program, whereas I lived in Florida. So we met at the end of June, and his program ended mid-August. And so when he left, I really was kind of like, what is going to happen here? And we did long distance, and we did long distance for a very long time. I'm trying to make this like the short and sweet version of the story. Otherwise, we will be here for hours and hours, and no one wants to hear me talk for that long, especially myself. And so we did the long distance thing. We went back and forth between seeing each other probably like every 2 months. We were very good at long distance for people dating in 2 different countries. Then again, it's not that hard to travel to Canada, the US. It really isn't.
Unless COVID hits.
Yeah, it's not hard. It was like, and I eventually, right after I left Disney, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was a 2-hour flight from Charlotte to Montreal, which is where we live. And so we ended up getting engaged about 1.5 years into dating, and decided on a long engagement just because he was in school. We had to figure out the whole like immigration thing because I can't just move to Canada. That's not a thing you can just do. And we set a date for December of 2020, and I'm sure you can already guess that didn't happen.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so we had been engaged since October of 2017, and March of 2020 rolls around, and they closed the US-Canada border. So there was like a good 7 months I couldn't even come see him. He couldn't come see me. And, eventually October of 2020 rolled around, and we figured out that like Canadians could still fly to the US, but like they couldn't drive, and then I couldn't fly or drive into the US. So what we did was we obviously postponed our December 2020 wedding, but we were like, we have to get married anyway. Like we have to. One, we wanted to, and two, we were a long distance couple living in Canada and the United States during pandemic. Like we had to get married. So we got married in October of 2020, hardly told anyone it was happening until afterwards. And then I moved to Canada 3 days later, because now as his wife,
Courtney's
I was
face.
allowed into the country. Courtney's face.
Plot twist.
Plot twist, because as his wife, I was now allowed to enter Canada because I was now married to a Canadian. Obviously, we ended up having to also cancel our December 2021 wedding, where the party was supposed to finally happen, because the border was still closed, and then Omicron and all of that fun stuff. But I have lived in Canada now with him. We just celebrated our 2nd wedding anniversary. I've lived in Canada. We have a house, we have a dog, and that's the short version of Julian and I.
It's
Love it.
incredible. Literally
Totally
incredible.
incredible.
Okay, I have to know. Did you go on any other, like, I know you went on your first blind date with Mr. and Mrs. Incredible. Did you have other dates with Mr. and Mrs. Incredible?
Yes. So if anyone can't figure out what we're talking about, Julian and I were very good friends with Mr. and Mrs. Incredible. So we worked a lot of shifts together at the Incredible Super Dance Party in Tomorrowland. It became a point where I would start trading shifts to try to work together.
Oh, that's so fun,
because we
though.
had so much fun together. Like, it was such a fun, well, it's a fun shift to begin with. Like,
Well, yeah.
just out there dancing with the Incredibles the whole shift. And then, when you're not working, I got to sit in the break room and hang out with him the whole time. Like, it was pretty great.
That is-
Yeah.
And then another question on this is, do you think you'll do, like, maybe, like, a vow renewal and get that, like, dream day, or we're just kind of over it?
A while I was like, oh, we're still gonna do it eventually, but now that we've been married for 2 years and we have the house, I'm like, I don't really want to spend a whole lot of money on a vow renewal now. Not feeling it. Weddings are expensive.
Yeah.
I'm sure y'all both know that. I was an event coordinator before what I'm doing now, and weddings are expensive, but I think the plan right now is we're hoping for our 5th anniversary to go to Europe and do like a European vow renewal with just like super close friends and family. Because also, like, what an excuse to go to Europe.
For sure. And I did love that you did, like, you put on your dress and you did those photos.
Yes.
Like, you got photos of that. So,
yeah. So for anyone who cares, what we did was I never got to wear my actual wedding dress, because when we got married, I think I bought like a $99 dress online because I thought I was going to get to wear my big wedding dress, and I had it. So what we did was our photographer, God bless her heart, she's the sweetest. She lives in Florida, and I was going to fly her to Pennsylvania for my wedding because I don't trust anyone else. And what we did was in February of this year, so it was not Christmas time, we set up fake Christmas trees in my best friend's backyard and twinkle lights. And I put on my dress, and my husband put on his tux, and our dog was there, and we took wedding photos, and they look kind of legit.
Yeah.
And they're not.
Yeah, and you now still get to, like, have that, like, you can, like, frame those in your house. So I'm very glad that you did that and got to wear,
There's
like...
a giant canvas of one of them with our dog, because my dog is the light of my life. So, like, there's just a giant canvas in our kitchen of us with the dog.
I love that. Okay, so you briefly talked, so then you moved to Canada. Just like...
Yes.
Yeah, I need to, like, unpack this Canada situation a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, like, you became a Canadian, essentially.
I did. Best thing I ever did.
I don't know, I hope this isn't, like, too personal of a question.
Oh, no.
How did it go with your friends and family when you were like, I'm moving to Canada?
And, like, sorry, I want more on top of that. Like, the second you met Julian, you were like, okay, he's the one. Like, were you like, I'm going to move to Canada? Like, versus him coming to...
Right.
Quite literally came home from our first date. My roommate was like, how did it go? And I said, I'm going to move to Canada. I said it. I was like, I'm going to move to Canada one day. There was, like, no question in my mind. Funny enough, which I didn't know this until a few years later, he went home that night as well and told his roommate, I'm going to marry this girl. So, like, we knew right away, like, this was it. I think for a while we tried to pretend like we were just playing it cool, like.
Well, of course.
But we did know, like, right away. For some reason, without a doubt in my mind, it was right away just like, I'm going to move to Canada. I never in my head thought, like, oh, Julian should come to the U.S.
That is
I was
interesting.
like, I'm going.
Okay, but now to Courtney's question, like, how did your, like, family and your friends react? Like,
Yeah.
bye, guys.
Well, so my parents actually met him like a week into us knowing each other. I wasn't even sure if we were, like, officially dating or not. And what happened was we were in Magic Kingdom. My parents were visiting, and he was in Magic Kingdom with his friend. And he was like, I want to see you. And I was like, I'm with my parents. But he was like, that's fine. I'd love to meet them. And my parents loved him from the moment they met him. Yeah, there was, like, no question about it. So when it came down to me being like, I'm going to move to Canada, no one really said much. My friends were all very supportive. I think they all knew, like, Julian, they all love him. Like, everyone loves Julian. And I think I'm very fortunate that, I did marry someone that everybody loves. So I think everyone was like, okay, if you want to move to Canada, you can move to Canada. Like, that's fine. And I still come, like, I still see my friends and family all the time. So it's not like I don't see them. And my mom's one thing was she said to him when he asked my dad if he could propose to me, and then they told my mom that he asked, my mom's one thing was like, if she moves to Canada, you better let her come see me. He was like, okay, I can do that.
Fair. What about for you? How has been the adjustment, like, living in Canada? Because I know, like, isn't their first language French?
Yes, where we live, the first language is French. That's a challenge for me because French is not an easy language by any means. And I did not ever try to really learn French other than until I moved here. I will say that, like, I can go to a grocery store and if they speak to me in French, I just respond in English and it is what it is. And I can go to a restaurant and I can read the French menu. I can read it. Sometimes I make an order for me. Yeah, I can read food. My dog actually knows French commands. But, like, as far as me speaking it, even though I might know a lot and I can, like, listen to conversation now and pick up on things, I'm too shy to speak it.
Yeah.
It's...
So have you been able to, like, Courtney and I have touched on this before, like, making adult friends is so hard.
It's funny you guys think I have friends here, because I don't.
Well, that's why I was asking. Like, I just can't imagine. Like, I'm so in awe of, like, that you just, like, picked up and moved to Canada.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is like, my husband is truly, like, my best friend. Like, if you have ever seen us interact together, like, we have so much fun. And I get along with his family. Like, me and his sister are close. So, like, I don't feel alone because, like, his parents are wonderful. And, like, we live in the age of FaceTime. So
Right.
if I want to call my friends, I call them on FaceTime. And, my best friend lives in Orlando. I go down to Orlando all the time. So we see each other all the time.
Yeah.
I don't mind if I have to travel to see people, I don't mind that.
Yeah, it's not a terrible thing.
No, it's not the worst. Like, and having to go to Orlando to see your best friend,
Not
the worst place to have to go.
I gotta do that too.
I know, right? Like, it's not the worst. And I've kind of accepted because I talked to this with my mom. I was like, how do you make friends as an adult? You make friends at work, which I'm self-employed. So my coworker's my dog. And you make friends once you have children and, if you meet their parents and that's how you make friends.
Yeah.
Well, we're not there yet. And I'll have to cross that bridge when I come to it because I don't know if my future children's friends' parents are going to speak English.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man. That is wild. But
yeah.
I love that you just, like, fully embraced it and you're like, I'm a Canadian now and you love it.
I feel like I belong here, Like, my backyard looks like a winter wonderland during Christmas time. And then the whole, like, Thanksgiving's in October. So you don't have to worry about people yelling at you about the whole, like, you're celebrating Christmas too early thing because Thanksgiving was a month ago.
So it's all meant to be, really.
Yeah.
Really. Full circle.
Except I hate the cold, but, that's what it is.
Okay. So obviously we touched on that you worked for the Mouse. So I want to jump into the cast member life a little bit. My first question is, did you start working for the Mouse through the Disney College program, or did you go to Orlando with the intention of just getting hired by the Mouse?
So I did not do a CP. I actually went to University of Central Florida. And funny enough, my first year of college, I actually did a community college and I was kind of figuring out like where I wanted to transfer to. And I had gone to like a CP info session at my college. I was like, oh, I could do this. And then I wanted to go into hospitality and event management. And the best school in the country for that is the University of Central Florida. So I remember telling my mom, like, I think I want to be like an event planner or a wedding planner. And my mom was like, well, you know that you can go to school in Orlando for that. And I was like, okay, sounds great. That's what I'm going to do. And so when I moved down to Orlando for school, I obviously pursued working part-time at Disney because it made the most sense to me. It worked out.
Yeah. So when you went to go work for them and you went to apply, did you like I don't even know how their hiring process works, but I know you worked for Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique.
Mhm.
Was that your goal going into it?
So it was always a goal of mine, but I actually started in merchandise. And when I went into my interview for merchandise, I had friends that worked in the boutique already. So I kind of knew a little bit more about like the inner workings of things. So I knew that the managers of Fantasyland merchandise were the same managers of the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique in
Nice.
Magic Kingdom. So I went into my interview for merchandise in my head, and I said to my friend, I said, I want Fantasyland because eventually it'll make it easier for me to get to the boutique. Walked into my interview, and they hired me on the spot and offered me Fantasyland without me saying a word. And I was like, okay, I did that. My brain is very powerful.
No,
Yeah.
you're manifesting that.
I'm very good at self-manifesting. And so about a year into me working for the company, I wanted to transfer to boutique, and I applied. And when you transfer within the company, you have to interview with a boutique leader. So it was either going to be a Magic Kingdom manager or a Disney Springs manager. And the day before my interview, my manager came up to me in Fantasyland and was like, "Don't be nervous, your interview's with me tomorrow." So
Nice.
it kind of, boutique was one of my goals. I had 3 goals when working for Disney, 3 things I really wanted to do, and it was boutique, entertainment, and Disney Cruise Line. And I got to do all those 3 things. So
Amazing.
Because you manifested it.
I'm really good at manifesting. Not so much lately, but I used to be.
Well, just keep it up. So you were at the boutique, and then you moved to entertainment.
Yes.
How did that come about?
So entertainment was always something I like wanted to do and wanted to try. And if it was one of those things that I was like, if I don't get to do it though, it's okay. Like I loved the boutique. The boutique is still my favorite job I've ever held at Disney. And I had gone to several auditions and never made it very far. And there was one specific audition where my roommate at the time worked in entertainment, and he randomly was like, "What size shoe are you?" I was like, "I'm a size 6, you weirdo. Why are you asking my shoe size?" And he was like, "You need to go to that audition." I was like, "Why?" And apparently there was a specific costume that was made for people that were my height, which is like 5'5", 5'6", but also needed to have a size 6 or 7 shoe. And that's kind of rare. So he was like, "Go to this audition." And I went, and I made it to the end, and I got a transfer into entertainment because of my shoe size. It is literally because of my shoe size.
What?
Amazing.
Yeah,
Will you
quite literally because of my shoe size.
will you tell us
But
who
also,
you
like-
happen to be friends with that
Yeah.
has that shoe size? Or
I happen to be friends with Joy from Inside Out.
Ah.
And it was like shortly after headquarters and Epcot had opened, and they were having a hard time finding people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fascinating.
Yeah.
Will you tell us who else you maybe became friends with?
Yeah. So Pluto was another one I spent a lot of time with. And then there was like a few like one-offs. Like I did Mr. Smee. I did Wendell from the Country Bears. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I was friends with Wendell from the Country Bears. And that was so much fun. And I think Bolt was the other one. That was bad though. I didn't like that.
2 dogs.
I didn't
That
like
makes
friends
sense.
with him. Yeah. But Pluto, ugh, I loved hanging out with Pluto. He was so much
Yeah.
fun.
Would you say that he was like your best friend?
Well, Joy was my best friend. I was banished to headquarters. I didn't get scheduled anything else unless I traded shifts.
I was gonna ask, did you do any like character dining or anything like that, or?
With Pluto, I did. I did a lot of shifts at, not a lot, at Chef Mickey's. I would have to trade for them though, because Disney would only schedule me at Inside Out headquarters. Like I wouldn't get scheduled anywhere else, which like isn't a bad place to be because that was a pretty nice like schedule we had. But I loved Chef Mickey's, and a lot of character performers will tell you that they did not like Chef Mickey's, but I loved it because you get to run around and you get to wave the bandana, and then I also got to do Ohana breakfast, which was a lot of fun
Cool.
because I got to walk around with the maracas.
Cool.
So you were friends
Sorry.
with a lot of people.
Not that many. Julian's list is a lot longer.
How long did you work in entertainment?
It was only like 6 months.
Oh,
It was,
Wow.
Yeah. It was because I transferred to entertainment, and then I had gotten a full-time entertainment position, which was perfect because it was like a few months after I graduated from college. But then my school loans kicked in, and I was like, haha, how am I supposed to pay these while working for Disney?
Yep.
such a bummer. Such a bummer.
So what prompted the change from character work into where you went next?
It was my school loans. It was
Literally.
yeah. That was what happened. Is my school loans kicked in, and also Julian had left Florida, and I was like kind of looking at everything as a whole, and I was like, I can't afford to work for Disney and pay all of my bills, and also now afford plane tickets to Canada.
Right.
It was not going to happen. So I ended up moving to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where my parents live, and I started working for Marriott. So got my foot in the door with Marriott and kind of like grew there. But yeah, gotta love school loans.
Oh my
But-
god. Yeah.
I know that you then went to Disney Cruise Line, and we don't have to touch a whole lot on this, but you were at Marriott and then went to Disney Cruise Line. Am I?
Yeah. So I was having a rough time with Marriott because I was getting like passed over for promotions within my own hotel, despite the fact that I was a great employee. Like I killed it. Like I was a great employee, and I was getting passed over for things, and I had gone on a trip to Florida, and I was like missing like making magic because at the time I was working a front desk job, and front desk is not like the most magical job at a hotel. It's just it's not. And I had gone on Disney Careers, and I like checked to see what they were hiring for, and nothing really interested me. And then I went on Disney Cruise Line Careers, and I was like, let me just look. And they were hiring for Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, and I said, I'll just apply. They'll never call me, because I had applied for boutique actually on the ships when I first graduated college, because I was like, I'm not tied down to anything. Let me just go. And I had never heard anything back, which is common with DCL. And I ended up getting contacted very fast, had my interview very fast, and got offered a contract almost immediately, which is like unheard of with Disney Cruise Line. People wait months to join a ship. From like the time I applied to the time I joined the ship was like less than 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
Which is, it's not. And what I will say about my DCL experience was I loved my job with every fiber of my being. If I could have just been in the boutique 24/7, I would have been fine. Which like I kind of was in the boutique 24/7 because you work so many hours a week. But like the second I would get to my crew cabin, I was a mess. I was anxiety, panic attacks. And then I broke my foot while I was on the ship.
And that was the end of that.
Yeah, I broke my foot, and that was just an all-around bad experience because I was now on crutches on a moving ship, which, like, crutches aren't easy to begin with. Let's add in waves with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Not good. And then the medical center, like, didn't believe me that my foot hurt because their x-ray machine on board wasn't powerful enough. So it didn't pick up my break. And then finally, like 10 days into me literally just sitting in a 10 by 10 crew cabin, watching TV by myself all day because I couldn't work, they finally sent me for an MRI in St. Thomas, and my foot was broken. So I got sent home, didn't think I was going to go back. Ended up trying to go back for another contract on a different ship and a shorter contract. And I got on the ship on a Friday, and I quit by Monday and was off. Because I said, I cannot do this. I had like one of the worst panic attacks I've ever had. And if there's anything I've learned in this life is that mental health is more important than anything.
Yep.
And just from the experience I had, and I just remember I went to the medical center in HR while this like panic attack was happening, and they were like, well, you should have known this was going to be your reaction. And I was like, how am I supposed to know that getting back on the ship was going to trigger me like that?
Right.
Like, I had no idea. So, yeah.
Also, like, if people could just, like, predict everything about their panic attack and just, like, not go through it, I'm sure they would.
Oh, yeah. I would have 100% not wanted to go through that, but I didn't know.
Right.
And so it didn't exactly end on the best terms, but I'm still grateful for the opportunity, and I don't want anyone listening to this to be like, oh, I never want to work for Disney Cruise Line. Because I know people that like they make it their entire lives and they love that style of living. And I honestly look at them in awe, like, how do you do that? Because I tried it, was not for me, but I still got to do it.
Right, because you said at the beginning of this conversation that your 3 things that you wanted to do while working for the Mouse, and one of them was to work for Disney Cruise Line. What was it about Disney Cruise Line that like kind of caught your eye that you had that on your manifestation list?
I don't even know. It was like one of those things that was always like there, and I was like, it would just be really cool to like have that experience and work on a ship. And I knew people. I had friends that had done contracts, so I like heard about them and their style of living, and they really liked it. So I think it was just something I wanted to try.
Yeah.
I will never do it again.
That's fair. I mean, even to me, I always like think it's fascinating, like cruise ship work.
It's a different kind of life.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of life.
I always thought that it's what I wanted to do. Like when I was little, I would write what I want to be when I grow up would be like a cruise ship director, because I always thought that it would be so fun. But I have friends that work in like musical theater friends and that have done ships and like agree never again is pretty much. Yeah.
Well, it is your life. Like, I mean, you live there, so you live where you work.
Yeah. And I also was at the time I was engaged to Julian, and like granted we were already long distance, so like we were kind of used to that. But like at the time, now they get like complimentary Wi-Fi, but at the time as a crew member, you had to pay for your Wi-Fi.
I'm sorry,
so
what?
Talk to Julian. Yeah, you have to pay for Wi-Fi.
As a cast member?
Talk to Julian. What?
As a cast member?
Yeah. Now I think they give it to them complimentary or something's it's not, you don't have to pay for it anymore. But when I worked there, you had to pay.
That's fascinating. So the only way that you could have gotten in touch with your friends and family was to pay for the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Unless, I mean, I was fortunate I was on the Fantasy, so we were in the US once a week. And then we did go to St. Thomas once every other week. So my phone worked there because it's a US territory. And then my phone also worked in Mexico because I had AT&T. So for some reason, so like once a week in the middle of the week, my phone would work. But other than that, and also if it wasn't a day that I had the morning off, because we would get just mornings off, I still couldn't use my phone because I had to work. So
that is fascinating.
Sounds very exciting.
Wow. Okay. Anywho, my mind is blown over that.
Fun facts.
Since you have now worked for like at Disney World and Disney Cruise Line, I know that you still visit Disney World a lot. Do you still feel like you still like believe in the magic and feel the magic when you visit the parks?
100%. It doesn't go away. So I will say that like when I still lived in Florida and was still working for the company and would go to the parks, it didn't feel as magical. And I also think that's partially because I was spoiled. Yep. And it also was back when park reservations weren't a thing. So if I got off work and I wanted to, do you want me to go on a park reservations rant? Because I can.
Yeah.
If I got off work and I wanted to go watch fireworks, I could. When I worked in Fantasyland, a lot of my shifts didn't start until 6 p.m. So if I wanted to go play in Magic Kingdom before work, I could. But I was doing it so often when I first moved there that by like the end of me working there, I didn't want to go to Disney anymore. I was tired. Disney's exhausting. Like, let's be honest with ourselves here. But now when we go, I have much more of an appreciation for it. I still don't feel the need to go from park open to park close anymore because I'm still a little bit spoiled. But I've been away from it long enough now because I left the parks in 2016. So I've been away from it for long enough now that it's the best when we go. And, my husband turns into full-blown, like, child when we go to the park. Because he only worked for he did 2 summer programs that were only 3 months long each. So like he never got burnt down of the magic. He never had that moment that was like, oh, I want to sleep before work. He was always going. So he never had that. So he turns into like full-blown toddler. Like you have to like literally keep an eye on him or he like runs away.
Put one of those like monkey leash bags on him.
We went to Disneyland with him, me and my best friend Bobby. We took him to we took him to Disneyland, the little kid, and we kept losing him because he kept getting distracted by the toys in the stores.
Oh.
But Disneyland is a magical, magical place, so I don't blame him one bit.
Disneyland's a little bit superior.
It really is. Okay, we'll wrap up the cast member life. That was very interesting. That is... Yeah. Okay, but we moved on in your life, and you moved to Canada, and you now are a fellow small business owner.
I am. Somehow that happened along the way.
I love that for you.
Me too.
What made you start Gingerbread Couture?
So it started in 2020, as I feel like a lot of people kind of started small businesses in 2020.
Yeah.
And a little bit of backstory. I actually owned an Etsy shop back in 2013. And y'all might remember this because you were kind of like, were you on Disney social media back in 2013, 2014? Do you remember when everyone wore like the Disney inspired bows?
Sure do.
That was like the thing. I made those. And I made ears back in 2013. And I did it for about 2 years, and then I was a full-time student. I was working at Disney. I was trying to have a social life, so I stopped doing it. And a big part of the reason I stopped doing it is because this was back when, like, the term small shop was not used.
Yeah.
It was not a terminology. And, you know, I'll be honest, it was a lot of, like, people weren't respectful of small business owners' time. And I, at the time, did not have, you know, separate social media for my business because it was just something I was doing. And I would go to Disney World on my days off, and I'd get messages that are being like, oh, you can go to Disney, but you can't ship my order. And I'm like, it says it'll take 3 to 4 weeks because everything's handmade. Like, it was very frustrating. And I ended up just being like, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. And I, you know, I met my husband in 2016, and all this while after I stopped doing that, I was still making stuff for myself. I was still making myself ears when we would go to the parks. I would make him pocket tees. And he'd be like, why aren't you doing this? Like, you love this, so you should be doing this. And I would say, I don't want to sell anything online ever again. He'd be like, why? I'm like, because I'm stubborn. That's why. And it was just because I had, not that I had a negative experience the first time, but things have changed so much as far as people's like respect for small business owners in the past. Like, I would say even since the pandemic is when it really like the shift in like, oh, these are real people doing real things versus just, I placed this order online. Why aren't you shipping it in 2 days? Like, people no longer expect you to be Amazon now.
I agree.
And like, there are still those like one-offs where it happens, but people are so much more understanding. So that's a little bit of backstory. So 2020 rolls around, and I didn't get furloughed from my job like everyone else that worked in hospitality. I basically got kept on because I was trained in multiple departments. So my hotel was very smart. And they were like, oh, we have to have less people working, but this girl knows 4 departments and we can train her in 2 more.
Yep.
But I was only getting scheduled 2 days a week. And I was bored out of my mind because I was only working 2 days a week. I couldn't do anything because everything was closed. I couldn't see Julian because the border was closed. And I'm hardly making any money. So I started kind of like doing more crafts for myself is how it started. I was doing some Cricut crafts. I was making myself ears, like literally out of boredom because I had a little bit of a fabric stash. I started selling some masks, and I was posting them in my personal account's Instagram stories. And I was getting DMs from people who used to buy things from me 8 years ago saying, you should sell this. Why aren't you selling this? So I figured, what the heck? Why not? It'll keep me distracted with all this pandemic stuff is going on. Yep. It'll hopefully give me some extra income. And that's how it started. And then it just kept going. And now it's been 8 years since I first had an Etsy shop, almost 9. And I'm somehow making hair accessories and ears again. All this time later, after I swore I would never do it again. And now it's my full-time job.
I
love it.
Well, and it even like worked out for like the better because like now you could do it in Canada.
Yeah. It really did work out because when I first was like planned to move here, I didn't have a plan for work because I couldn't just work here right away because of all the, you know, visa and all that stuff. So it worked out.
That's can you tell us, I didn't write this in your question, so sorry, but
Okay.
where did Gingerbread Couture come from? Like the
The name.
name. I mean, I know you
A
love
lot of
Christmas.
people ask me this question because they're just like, that's not, you have Disney inspired stuff, but that doesn't sound like a Disney name at all. Like, what is this shop? I wanted something unique when I picked a name, and I think my first, Etsy shop name years ago was like Real Life Disney Bows, because that was my like Instagram handle at the time, was like Real Life Disney. And then I changed it to like Taylor's Thingamabobs. But then when I wanted to create another shop, I was like, I want a Christmas themed shop. That just made the most sense to me because
does.
it's my entire personality. So I really wanted to include cookies, and I'll try not to cry talking about this. So my grandmother was a baker. She baked cookies, every cookie under the sun. And she always joked around that she was going to start a cookie business one day and name it Anita Cookie because her name is Anita.
Cute.
That's so
Was
cute.
Anita. And my grandmother was, if there's anybody that's more supportive, or I guess was more supportive than me than Julian was my grandmother. So she did pass away in 2018. So I really wanted to incorporate cookies into my business somehow to kind of honor my grandmother, and gingerbread cookies just happen to be my favorite. So I said, why not use gingerbread? And then couture came from, it's the French word for sewing, but it's also because of my husband's last name. So / my last name now. So I kind of stole it because it's a good last name.
I didn't know that's the French name for sewing.
Yeah. And my name is ironically Taylor. So this was destined. My name manifested this nonsense.
Wow. Very cool. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. I didn't cry while talking about my grandma. I'm very proud of myself.
Good job.
I know. I'm
Good
so
job.
sorry.
Yay, me.
Okay. Give us an idea of like a day in the life of behind the scenes of Gingerbread Couture.
Yeah.
This is tough because both of you have been and are small business owners. So like, there's not a single day that's the same. Especially, I release things every Monday. So it kind of depends on which day of the week it is.
Fair.
Things go a certain way. Because, I have my certain days where that's the day I package order. I have my certain days where that's the day I do computer work. I guess every day starts out with me getting some type of caffeine and then climbing down to my office and then maybe coming up for air 8 hours later / maybe 12 hours later, depending on the time of year.
No, but like I follow you on Instagram, obviously, and like you're very good at like sitting down to work and you work.
Oh, yeah.
I am not.
It's because here's the thing. I hyperfixate on things. And that's part of the reason why I'm so obsessed with Christmas. And I love my job so much that I'm able to hyperfixate on work.
Yep.
But on the downside of that is I work too much because I actually like what I do and I can't stop.
I mean, it sounds like a positive. I
mean, it's a good
hear
thing,
you
but also,
trying to
like-
make that a negative, but it actually sounds like a pretty positive thing.
I make everything a negative. I try. This Debbie Downer over here. Just kidding.
No. I just like that is huge to say that you still love what you do,
Oh, I love it. Like I absolutely love my job, and I'm very fortunate that I can say that. I mean, there are some days where, something goes wrong or a product I had planned didn't turn out the way it's supposed to. But most days I don't wake up and go, oh, I don't want to go to work. I wake up and I'm like, okay, I got to go to my office.
I love
Julian's
that.
like, can you wait until 9 p.m.? You don't need to go down there at 7:30.
Yes, I do. Got stuff to do.
Yes, you do.
I know, because especially if you're like creating the item, I remember like or not even remember even this now, when I think of something, I want to do it now and I have to like do it now. Like there's no stopping me. I want it done
Get
now.
excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel that way too.
Wait, I want to know, does your husband work from home or does he go into an office?
Most days of the week he works from home. So
Nice. So you're both work from home.
Yeah.
Nice.
So my office is in the basement, his is on the second level, and we just like scream at each other.
Nice.
Me and Kyle.
And I have an old house, so like you can hear everything. So if I scream, he like hears me. He probably can hear me talking right now. But yeah.
He's
It's fine.
probably like
Brooke is-
gonna come down. Like, what'd you want?
Now I got to be careful because I specifically told him not to bother me.
Okay, so as like can we call you a retired cast member?
Sure.
Is there? I mean, I guess you could always go back. Is there anything that
They
you
won't let
would?
me after the whole DCL me quitting with 3 days.
Fair enough. Is there anything do you think you take away from that experience that you put into Gingerbread Couture?
Is it lame if I just say like creating magic every day?
No.
I mean, that's like such a cheesy response, but I'm gonna cheesy for a second. Fairy Godmother is like my role model. Okay.
Yeah.
Like she is my hero, and that comes from like working in the Videopoly boutique. And I don't know, I just kind of like I like to say like, what would Fairy Godmother do? I like kind of take her values and like pour it into my business. And that's kind of cheesy, but
No, that gave me goosebumps. I love that.
like when I left the company, one of my biggest fears was that like I wouldn't have that same feeling of creating magic. And like with my career with Marriott, it took me a while to get to the point where I felt like I was creating magic again. Because obviously I got to be an event coordinator and I got to do weddings, which was like
Magic.
magical. But now like I create magic every day, and you know people buy things that I make, which is
Yeah.
insane. People spend their money on me.
I know. I feel that
Yeah.
same way. It will
I
never.
know you can relate.
It never gets old. Like, yeah,
It really doesn't. Like
it
every
feels
time
like
I'm
mind
in order,
blowing. Like,
I
why
scream like
me?
I got an order.
Yeah.
Like, well, you think I'd be used to it, but it's still so exciting. Like,
Yeah.
Yep, I feel the same way. I watch my site every single Wednesday. Like, this is happening. Oh my gosh, me? Why me?
well, it's because you're Pixie Lee & Co. and you create the best shirts ever. I don't know. I'm wearing one or something right now.
Well, thank
know?
you very much.
It's my favorite shirt.
That's a good shirt. It's one of my favorites too. It's one of the only ones I've kept for myself, actually. What would you say? We ask Courtney and I actually just touched on this last week, but what would you say is the hardest part of having a small business?
We all know it's life work balance.
Ain't that the
I guess-
truth?
And like, because like I said, like I love what I do, so I want to be working, but like 5 o'clock will roll around, and I obviously don't want to stay in my cave of an office until midnight. But do I bring work upstairs and sit on my couch and do it at night while I'm watching TV? Absolutely.
Right.
And for me, I'm fortunate that like sometimes that means just putting elastic into scrunchies, which is like a very mindless task. So I can like still hold a conversation with my husband, but like I don't know how to not work, especially with my office being in my house. I always feel like I should be doing something. And it's not very healthy, but
No, we get it.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
you guys get, because it's especially when your office is in your house, because then
Yep.
you're like,
Yep.
I'm sitting up here trying to relax, but there's something I could do downstairs.
Yep, I feel
Well,
this.
it-
Look, I
same
just moved
goes-
my. Sorry, Courtney. I just moved my office back home, so I'm kind of like back into that as well. But it is what it is. What were you saying, Courtney?
No, it's the same principle, but also the fact that we have or had Disney businesses. It also, like, the real life whatever line gets blurred, but also you're going on vacation to a vacation place, Disney, and like work has to be part of that. So like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
gonna come and like bring your products to get
Mhm.
photos for content, or like you need to keep your story updated because people are watching, and like you get more engagement when you're in the parks. Like
Yeah.
all that stuff, but it's the same. Like you don't just like turn it off because you're on vacation. 'cause
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
at Disney.
absolutely not.
You're like turning it on.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
right,
almost
'cause,
worse.
like-
We're going next week, and I had to spend like a significant amount of hours just making new product to take
Yep.
and photograph. And then
Yep.
I have to spend time during each day to photograph those products and make sure I get the right. There's no off.
There's no often
No.
like we don't get paid vacation. Like
No.
Right.
even if we let's say are going to go somewhere other than Disney, like you're still like I can't just take a break off of social media.
Yeah, not this past weekend, but the 2 weekends before that, we traveled, and I've been working like every single hour I've been home.
try
because
to
I
catch up.
went on vacation
Yeah.
and I have to play catch up.
Yeah.
And I decided to create a schedule for myself where I release new products every week. So I have to stick to it even when I'm traveling.
I
Good for
feel
you,
that.
though. That's
And yeah, that's the way to do it though, is to have
Yeah.
is you're consistent. And I also love you call it Merry Monday, so very
Oh,
on
yeah. Merry
theme.
Monday.
That is so
Next
fun.
Monday's the merriest Monday.
Ooh. Okay, so that means the day that this comes out is the merriest Monday.
That one is coming out. Oh, it's
Yeah.
merriest Monday. I like it.
Yes.
Wow. Everyone should probably go to Gingerbread Couture today and get 30% off the entire site then.
They
Oh my
sure
gosh.
should. We'll link
Promote
it.
myself a little bit there.
No,
What
of
is-
course.
Site. What's the URL? Go.
It's gingerbreadcouture.com.
Amazing. Easy.
Yeah.
And
Everyone go.
we will link it in the description.
Just gonna promo myself. Everyone go shop
No,
Merriest Monday.
as you
We'll have it in inventory
should.
right now.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most rewarding part of having a small business?
Just like every time someone tags me in an Instagram story or a post, and there has been one time where I've seen someone from afar wearing my product, but obviously like some of my products are scrunchies, so I'm not going to see those from afar in the park. But there was one time I saw a pair of my ears from like afar in the park, because I haven't been to the parks that much since I started my business. And like I make ears and they take forever, so I don't make a lot of them. But I saw one and I was like, oh, that's mine. Did I go up and say anything? Absolutely not, because I
That's me.
am shy.
I don't say
Sometimes I don't even
anything.
think they know who I am, though. Like, if I were to go up and be like, nice ears, they'd probably be like, who's this weirdo?
Right.
Yeah, just every time you get tagged in something or someone says that your product is their favorite or you're their favorite small shop, it's just like little things like that.
Mhm.
It's so rewarding, and it makes the hard days, makes it worth it.
I completely
Oh,
agree.
yeah.
I'm the same way in the parks, though. When I see my shirts, I don't go and say hi or anything. Courtney will say hi for me, but I will not. I'm like, no way.
You probably see your shirts a lot more frequently than I would spot my stuff.
I really don't.
Really?
No.
I see them all the time.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I don't.
I've seen your shirts around the park, and I almost want to be like,
Yeah.
hey, and then I'm like, I thought they definitely don't know who I am.
No, but like, there's other people that say like, oh, I saw somebody wearing your shirt, and I said like, oh, that's a Pixie Lee shirt, and they'll talk to them. But like me,
Yep.
I'll just be like, oh wow, that's my shirt, and then like keep walking.
We like to run our small businesses from the comfort of our homes, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Out in public.
Okay, what would you say is your favorite item that you've created?
This changes all the time. That's the problem. Is like, I know you always say like the next one's my favorite, but like that's truly what it is, because
is.
every I was actually working on a new pair of bridal ears today, actually, and I don't even know when they're coming out yet, but I had to make them for photo purposes, and I was like, wow, I love this pair. It's like one of my new favorites. I just made a Small World pair that's coming out in December to take down to photograph, and I was like, I love this one too. They're not even out yet.
Yeah. Another question. Somebody asked us this. We did like a Q&A once, and somebody was they like wanted to like start a small shop, but they like don't know how to go about things without like copying other shops. And I think that's a big thing with like, I mean, obviously with t-shirts too, but with ears, it's like ears are ears.
Yeah.
And so how would you say that you make your ears different so that you're not copying? Like your fabrics are always so fun, and I feel like you do really unique things, and this could be a hard question to answer, because I know if people ask me these things, I'm like, it's just in my brain. So if it's just in your brain, that's
what it is.
fine.
Like, I spend a lot of time looking for fabric, and once you find a fabric, I kind of think in my brain like, oh, how can I match this? And there has been times I've scrolled through Instagram and I scroll past another ear shop that has used the same fabric and happened to pair it up with the same color bow as me, and it's probably a complete coincidence. But my biggest thing is I don't actually follow other shops that make the same things as me. And that might be an unpopular opinion.
No, I actually think that's genius.
I also used to
agreed.
follow a few and found myself unfollowing them because you don't want to compare yourself to other people.
Right.
There's ear shops out there that have like 50,000 followers. I don't want to compare myself to those people or try to be that person. So I don't follow people that make the same things as me. And it has nothing to do with competition. Because, like, if someone likes another shop's ears or scrunchies better than mine, then that's that. That's fine. I have people that like mine. Like, it is what it is. But I don't follow them because it's impossible to accidentally, because, you know, there are people out there that you accidentally copy sometimes because you see something, you don't realize you see it, and then it's in your brain. And so then you're putting out the same thing, not realizing necessarily that you're copying. So I just I don't follow them. And they come up on my, like, my, it's not, what's it called on Instagram? Explore page. It comes up. Yeah. But I think my style of ear is a lot different than a lot of other shops nowadays. And I just roll with it.
Yeah. No, that's a, I love that you do that. Because I actually get discouraged when I see other small shops. So that's like, one, really healthy for your mental health to do that. So good for you.
Yeah.
If there's anything, and I think it's partially because too, back when I made bows, there was quite a few other big, not that mine was one of the big ones, but there was some businesses that were very big into bows. And I actually accidentally copied one. Actually, I don't know if it was an accident. Like, I didn't intentionally do it, but I had released a bow and it happened to look like another shop's bow. And I did not do it on purpose, but I felt awful about it. And someone like attacked me on Twitter about it, of all places. And I was like, I did not know that I did this. And I reached out to the shop owner and was like, I am so sorry. I did not realize. And of course they were like the nicest about it because I felt terrible.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've also had people copy me and literally tag me and things like when I made bows. I was like, look, I made the same thing. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's not cool. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Please don't do that. Let's really tag me in it. And I just think it's very important. Like, don't compare yourself to others. Don't, you know, and if that means that you're going to be that small shop that doesn't follow another small shop's back, which is a lot of people don't agree with that, then it doesn't.
No, that's a really good take.
Yeah. Especially the whole comparing yourself to other people is what really, you know, I've seen other businesses and I see the amount of likes their stuff gets and how many followers they have, and their stuff might sell out faster. And as soon as I get in that mindset, I hit the unfollow button. And I do that with my personal account too. If I'm following someone and I find myself being like, oh, I'm jealous, I unfollow them.
No, that is like, I hope everybody listens to that and then listens to it twice, because that is really good. That's amazing that you can do that, because I, for some reason, can't. But yeah, the mental comparison on Instagram is hard. Anyways,
been in the Instagram game long enough to know, nope, we don't play that game.
Yeah. I love that for you. Courtney, do you have any other questions for Taylor on the business or cast member life? Oh, go ahead.
I do. I want to know, what are your, like, either your top or your top three, like, products you're the most known for?
Like product type?
Or like either like your best seller, like a particular, no, like what do you like making all the time?
Scrunchies, ears, and top knot headbands. Those are like the three craziness. I love the top knot headbands. They're like my personal favorite, but people are crazy about scrunchies nowadays. And then I just love ears. I love creating ears. They have a little bit more creativity to them, I guess, but
Courtney, if you don't remember, Taylor's ears, that she took my Christmas PJs.
Oh, yeah. Let's say that that's my favorite product I've ever made. We'll say they're the Pixie Lee & Co. ears. I'll give myself brownie points here.
They are my favorite product you've ever made. The Sherpa bow is like good. 10 out of 10. But you remember those ears. Yeah. She made those. Oh, they're so good.
Yeah, they're amazing. What's your, like, is there a particular fabric or print or something that you picked up once and like ended up flying off the shelves that you were like, oh my gosh, like,
yes,
who knew?
There's two specific ones. I'm like, do I even have them in stock? No, I don't think I do. Frozen Fractals, which is a navy print with like blue snowflakes on it that looks like Elsa snowflakes. I've had that in my shop for like 2 years and I just keep buying more of it because who doesn't love a frozen fractal? And then the other thing is there's not a specific one, but I've probably done like 9 or 10 different Spaceship Earth prints, and they're all different like colorways. Like I had one that was like rainbow. Those they're first of all they're my favorite. But they do so well. I think it's because everyone understands how great Epcot is.
Yeah.
Well, this is my Christmas version of it. Only people on YouTube are gonna be able to see this, but like,
Oh, so fun.
it's Christmas Spaceship Earth.
So fun.
Oh my, that's cute.
and that's
He's like,
that's the
wait.
top knots.
Yeah, I love the
I
top.
love it.
So fun.
So
I've
fun.
moved so much around on here right now.
Any more, Courtney?
No.
Okay,
that was,
cool.
I'm amazed though.
Yeah, this was like a really fascinating conversation. And before we get your tip on how to live magically, Courtney's going to go through some rapid fire questions real quick, a little magical moment here.
Can I actually do rapid fire? That's the real question.
I can't either, so.
You can. I believe.
All right, take it away, Courtney.
All right. Ready? All right. Favorite park.
Epcot.
Favorite resort.
Port Orleans Riverside.
Oh, gross. Must ride.
In each park, right?
In each park. Yeah.
Magic Kingdom, it's a small world and People Mover. Epcot, Spaceship Earth, and Figment. Nobody yell at me.
I'm more questioning
Animal
the
Kingdom.
it's a small world.
I love It's a Small World. We all know this.
Wow.
I'm obsessed with it. Oh, I'm very passionate about Small World, okay? Animal Kingdom Safari. I love giraffes. And then Hollywood Studios, it's to get on the boat and go to Epcot because I don't actually like studios. Don't yell at me.
How long has it been since you've been here?
I have not. I was just went to studios in February.
And you still are like,
Listen, I have not been on Runaway Railroad yet. I know y'all love that one, so maybe once I get on it, I'll change my mind. But
Yeah.
I am not a Star Wars person.
okay, me either.
And I just feel like everything else at that park, no matter what, has like a 2-hour wait.
You're
And
not
I don't wanna
wrong.
wait in 2-hour lines, and I get motion sickness. So like, I like Rock and Roller Coaster, but I can't go on it because I get sick.
Yeah.
So
I
like,
was hoping you were going to say you don't like studios because you're holding a grudge because of spectacle.
oh yeah,
of Dancing Lights.
Dancing Lights. Oh yeah, I'm really mad about that. That's pretty much where our relationship ended,
Mm.
and it has not proved itself because when Spectacle of Dancing Lights was around, we used to go every single night. I would get out of class and I would meet my roommates.
Yeah, because it's
every
pure
single
magic.
night. And
But
then they took
you're-
it away.
you're
It's so Star Wars
going-
time.
You're going
Mad.
this weekend, right?
Yeah, we leave on Friday, get there Saturday. We're driving all the way there. So
Oh
send
my
us prayer.
gosh. When was
Was
the
not
last
my idea.
time you've been during Christmas?
Oh, it hasn't been since 2019.
Okay, so
Wow.
go to studios like at night during Christmas. They have it's pretty magical.
I know the decorations are good. I have an issue with Hollywood Studios now, and it's
Wow.
I'm not a Star
Okay.
Wars person. I know, unpopular opinion, but
I mean, I'm not
honestly,
a Star Wars
I
person
talked about
either.
this with Julian, and he was like, "Oh, the must ride is clearly just Muppets," and I was like, "Well, yeah." And like,
Wow.
I love Slinky Dog Dash, but like, I also won't wait in a 2-hour line for it.
I mean, neither
Fair.
will we.
No.
Okay,
So-
sorry, we got off track. What was the last?
Okay.
I went on a
sorry.
tangent. No way.
Last question. Favorite park snack.
Champagne and Epcot.
Oh, girl after my own heart.
I was gonna
That's a
say
snack, right?
she is your people,
Yeah.
Courtney.
You're my people.
Drinking an Epcot, I'm like, maybe Courtney and I should hang out.
You guys should. Unfortunately, she's not going to be there this weekend.
I know. Literally, like, there is nothing I love more than going to France, getting a double glass of champagne, and just strolling around World Showcase. It is my favorite
I
activity.
love that.
It is
Have
my
you
favorite.
Have you done the wine walk with champagne?
No, I have not.
Do the wine walk this trip.
I'll have to try it. We'll see if my husband lets
Yeah.
me. Last time I went
Yeah.
to Epcot, I drank so much champagne that my feet were bleeding, and I didn't notice till I got home. So there's that.
Hey,
I love that for you.
that's amazing.
I was with my best friend. We apparently watched fireworks, and I don't even remember watching them.
Oh
so.
my god.
Well,
Happens to
I
the
did.
best.
I remember dancing to the Tiana part, and that's like the extent of what I remember.
It's so
Good
good.
for you.
It's so good. Okay,
Amazing.
before we let you go, we need your tip to how to live magically, something that you've learned throughout your life that you can share with us.
just like be yourself, live your real life. I'm big about being myself, real life of Taylor. I'm big about living like my real life. Like, don't compare yourself to others. That's another big one. Don't put yourself in a box. That's another really good one I like to say is because, you know, if you say, I want to do this thing, but I'm never going to be able to do that, it's not going to happen. Whereas I like to say, I'm going to do that, and then I make it happen.
I was
So-
going to
Yeah.
say, I have a tip
Yourself.
that I'm taking away from you is that manifest it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. And I accidentally do it, but I'm really good at manifesting.
Well, you got to. I always tell people to manifest things, and you
One day
have
I'm gonna
seemed...
move to Whoville. I'm making it happen.
All right.
I manifested it. I spoke it into existence.
Heard it here first,
Cool.
folks.
I'm gonna move to Whoville one day.
I love that for you. And no, I took that's what I took away from this was that you've manifested your whole life, and it's a fascinating story, and I think it's proof that you can manifest anything.
Yeah.
Make anything happen as long as you believe in yourself and don't compare yourself to others, and it'll happen.
I love that. Okay, so they can find you on Instagram, obviously, at Real Life of Taylor, and then as well as Gingerbread Couture, and they can shop on Mondays for Merry Mondays. What time is that at on Merry Mondays?
8 p.m. Not the day that this is coming out, though. It starts at noon today. But
Okay.
every other Monday, it's at 8
Wow.
p.m. I let people vote for the sale, and they said noon, which is a weird time for a sale, but I rolled with it.
Hey, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, the entire site's going to be 30% off. And there's a free gift with purchase, and it's probably the coolest free gift I've ever thought of.
Ooh.
Not going to say what it is.
Okay, fine.
Cool.
I'll tell y'all once I finish recording.
Once we cut.
Yeah.
That's 8 p.m. Walt Disney World time, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Eastern
cool.
Standard.
Just making sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. This was a nice conversation.
I really loved this conversation. If you ever need a coworker and you're bored, you can FaceTime me. I'm happy to be a virtual
Really?
coworker.
If you ever need a coworker and you want me to come help you package a million orders, hit me up.
Also,
We'll come visit.
Drive
we'll get a
on
hockey
down.
game out of it. Your husband will love it.
perfect. Well, seriously, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody go give Taylor a follow.
Yeah.
And that's
Thank
all.
you, guys.
We'll see you all real soon.